A big and bright night in Texas. Election night results are in. Ken Paxton has defeated incumbent John Cornyn. Paxton, endorsed by Trump, will go up against woke Democrat James Tallarico in November. Tallarico is a leftist who believes there are six genders. It's true. That's what we're up against in the Lone Star State. A MAGA warrior who has zero tolerance against a confused leftist. They'll face off in November, but a big night for Ken Paxton. He had a great night in Texas, defeating John Cornyn. Also winning big last night, Mays Middleton in the Attorney General Republican runoff. Middleton beat out Chip Roy. Mays Middleton will advance to the November general election. And oh, what a night on the Democrat side. A big thorn in our side. Representative Al Green lost. He lost and is going to the unemployment line with his friend Jasmine Crockett. Al Green has been a staunch critic of President Trump, voted multiple times to impeach him, and also disrupted his State of the Union addresses. Texas says, "We are sick of you. You don't represent us. Go home. Goodbye, Al Green." And while it was a big night for President Trump endorsed candidates in districts all across the state, Texas did see its fair share of voting malfunctions. In Katy, Texas, just outside of Houston, machines went down. Weston Martinez, a businessman in the state, joining us now. Weston, you were live on social media when this was all going down. What went wrong?
I immediately started getting phone calls that people were saying they were being denied and that the machines were down and they had uh, no report on what was going on. And so then as I dug into it, what they were saying is not only were the machines down, but they were moving to paper ballots and they were actually telling people they were not going to be able to vote because it was too long. Ultimately, the glitch that they reported, the bug that the media reported, they're claiming that a election official uploaded the wrong ballot and didn't have the election to be able to be live for a live ballot, which again is one of the problems with countywide voting and one of the reasons why we need to go back to precinct level voting in person on paper.
Weston, the irony of it all, the machines had a glitch, the machines went down, so they moved to what works, paper ballots.
Isn't it ironic that the thing that they come to in an emergency is the thing that we should use all the time? If it's good enough for an emergency, maybe it's good enough for every time you vote a couple of times a year. It's another situation where I'm thankful for your channel and your followers and people on this station for highlighting the fact that our machines can be manipulated, whether it's intentional or accidental. There are glitches that can continue to happen. There are bugs that can continue to happen. But here's the thing, just like we found out in this case, it was an accident, but it did happen. It was possible. So, an entire county, Republicans and Democrats, were not able to vote for several hours, and the media immediately put out information and messages that actually squashed a lot of the vote. Now, I will tell you, it's a very heavy Republican voting county, but in the end, ironically, the Democrats wouldn't agree to extending the voting hours for a couple of hours so that people's constitutional right to vote would be left intact. Again, it's good that we're highlighting this issue. Thank you for bringing it up because this is one of the reasons why we need to go back to hand marked paper ballots. They use it in the emergency, use
Absolutely.
it all the time.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm glad you were there on the ground reporting this as it was going on. When you were first notified of this, it was going on in Fort Bend County. Is that correct? That's Katy, just west of Houston. Um, the the people there you had mentioned, I believe, that they were being turned away. Um, how long were the machines
Yes.
down? What were you hearing?
So I'm hearing they were down for an hour and a half to 2 hours, but it was at the most critical time. So, I've got one of my sources directly went there after they were picking up their kids. And so 3 o'clock, 3:30, they're over there turning in. And that's when they're told the machines are down. And, you're going to have to use these paper ballots that we have that we pulled out that we use in an emergency. But they told them, but look, it's going to take forever. It's going to take forever to vote and essentially indirectly they were just making it a high hurdle for people to execute, and so people left. People were leaving, and then the media immediately jumped on it. So uh, then only after uh, myself and some other people broke the story did the information come out about the gentleman that loaded the wrong race into the machines. And again, it just highlights that someone can infect the entire voting machines. And how did they infect all the voting machines if they're not connected to the internet? I mean, is this something that got released from Area 51? You know, with what is going on here? But how did they have one guy infect every machine if they're not connected to the internet? And they tried to say it was a poll pad error on top of that at first. Well, a poll pad error has nothing to do with the machines and the ballot that is loaded onto the machines. And so that's,
Doesn't it
anyways,
aggravate you, Weston,
crazy.
to hear this and to know that this is going on? This is what the voters are saying. They're being pretty much turned away because they're being told it's going to take too long to vote. That's the worst thing you can do, because a lot of times that's what these people want. But I understand people have lives, they have kids to take care of, getting off of work, going to vote, and are being told it's going to be a all nighter if they stand in line and are moved to paper ballots. But um, on the other side of the country, we have Congress who's not passing the Save America Act. So you have the Senate dragging their feet. You have machines going down in Texas. What gives, Weston? When does this all get fixed?
When they all realize that they might be the next one to have their election stolen from them, manipulated from, and when they finally wake up and realize that our Republican form of government has been taken over by election administrators and counties who have contracts with election companies, and that is whenever we have to stand up and really that's when the change is going to happen. But as you saw in Texas, that's part of the reason why I'm wearing one of my red sport coats today. Uh, MAGA is still alive and well. We used to call it the American spirit. And there are good Americans that are out there that just want what's right. They just want their family to be taken care of. They want every vote to count and not 1 cent more. And they also want to make sure that their grandchildren's children aren't voted into debt by by manipulation at the voter polls. I mean, there's trillions of dollars in debt that have been voted on since these machines have been put in place. And I can't find very many people that are for that debt. So that's when you're going to have these elected officials stand up. But I will tell you, we've got some information that we'll tell you offline, that some things that are happening that I think is going to move the needle.
Perfect. Can't wait to hear about it. What happens from here in Fort Bend County? I know last night you were calling on the Secretary of State to extend the voting hours, but we can't let this slide. Last night happened. And so now we got to figure out how it happened, why it happened, and how we make sure it doesn't happen again.
Well, and this comes down to, our Secretary of State. I've called for whoever it is to be an elected statewide official. So that way they're beholden to the people. That is one of the ways that we solve problems like this, because then the corrective action will take place, or you'll see corrective action at the ballot box. And that's one of the ways that we actually fix this situation long term. And also by making sure that each one of the new attorney general that's going to be elected, Mays Middleton, make sure that those waivers that the Secretary of State has been filing, that they're not granted anymore, and that the Secretary of State doesn't back up that the AG does not back up the Texas Secretary of State's ability to not allow us to audit our elections. And so those are some key things, some key victories that I see coming out of tonight's wins and losses, and so that's some very good news for Texas. We should see more integrity and fidelity at the ballot box, and we should not see a runaway Secretary of State any longer.
All right. Well, we appreciate everything you do. I know you're always on the ground fighting for election integrity and also for so much more in the great state of Texas, and also to fight for what's right in our country. So, Weston, you are a warrior. We appreciate you. Thanks for bringing that to our attention last night. For anyone who is watching right now, you can follow Weston on social media, always doing great things, working hard for a better America. Weston, good to have you on the show today.
Thank you. God bless you. You're doing a great job. Awesome.